Right now, nearly 43% of everything you do today will be completely on autopilot. Like
Yeah.
you aren't really making conscious decisions, you're just running scripts.
Yeah, which is kind of wild if you actually stop and think about it.
Right. Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at the invisible architecture of our days, so basically the actual science of human behavior.
Because, usually when people talk about self-improvement, they sell you this idea of heavy lifting. It's like this sports movie montage.
Oh yeah, you set a massive goal, you grit your teeth, and you just force it to happen through sheer determination and willpower.
Which is just an incredible way to burn yourself out by Tuesday. I mean, we love to believe we are the conscious, rational directors of every single choice we make, from waking up to going to sleep.
But the neurological reality is far different.
Completely different. Relying on motivation is essentially the definition of working harder instead of smarter.
So if you are listening to this right now and you've ever, struggled to keep a routine, or
Yeah.
if you constantly feel like you're failing at your new goals, we want to validate something for you right up front.
It is not a lack of willpower.
No, you don't have some fundamental character flaw. It is just a flaw in your system. So today, we're going to give you a practical, science-backed shortcut to hacking your behavior.
And we are unpacking a massive stack of research today. We've got James Clear's Atomic Habits, BJ Fogg's Tiny Habits.
We've also pulled insights from the Habit Box and Future You behavioral science blogs. Plus, there's this really fascinating 2024 psychological study from Econstore on workplace intentions.
And of course, some hard neuroscience on the basal ganglia.
Right. Our core mission here is to explore how you can build new routines without ever relying on motivation.
Specifically, we're going to look at how changing your home environment to make new habits easier and piggybacking those new habits onto old ones can completely change your trajectory.
Yeah, let's start by dismantling the biggest myth of behavior change out there. The whole idea that you just need to try harder or, want it more.
The research tells a completely different story. Instead of forcing change internally, you actually need to change the room you are standing in.
Which brings us to Kurt Lewin.
Yes. To understand why willpower fails, we have to look back to 1947. Kurt Lewin was this pioneering psychologist who published a concept called force field analysis.
Force field analysis, right.
Yeah, he proposed that human behavior isn't just a single drive forward. It sits in a state of equilibrium between two opposing forces.
So like a push and pull.
Exactly. On one side, you have driving forces. These push you toward a behavior. On the other side, you have restraining forces, which push you away from it.
See, I always used to think of willpower like a smartphone battery. You wake up at 100% and every email you send or decision you make just drains it a little bit.
That's how most people see it.
But Lewin's model makes me think of it differently. Willpower isn't a battery. It's more like a muscle holding up a really heavy weight.
Oh, that's a much more accurate physiological comparison.
Like you can hold that weight for a minute, maybe 5 minutes, but eventually the lactic acid builds up, your arm shakes, you just drop it.
Exactly. And when most people want to change a habit, they try to add more driving force.
Like watching a motivational video on YouTube at 2 a.m.
Right. They try to hype themselves up. They try to flex that muscle even harder. But Lewin pointed out that simply adding driving force just creates immense tension in the system.
Because the weight is still there.
Yes, you're pushing harder, but the barrier is still exactly the same. The much more effective route, the actual secret to sustainable change, is removing the restraining forces entirely.
You just put the weight on a shelf.
Exactly. The shelf holds it forever, and the shelf never gets tired.
So you don't need a stronger engine. You just need to take off the parking brake. And the ultimate proof of this is the Wansink candy dish experiment from 2006.
I love this study.
It blows my mind because of how trivial the intervention was. Researchers monitored 40 office secretaries over 4 weeks, and they gave them these dishes of Hershey's Kisses, but they manipulated 2 tiny physical variables.
Right. First, was the dish clear or was it opaque?
Yep. And second, was it sitting right on their desk or was it 2 meters away?
And think about that distance for a second. 2 meters.
It's nothing.
We are talking about standing up and taking maybe 2 normal steps to a filing cabinet.
Honestly, if you put a clear bowl of chocolate 2 meters from me, I'm not tapping into my willpower. I'm just going to buy an office chair with really good wheels.
Exactly, friction solved. But the results of this are staggering. When the candy was in a clear dish rather than an opaque one, the secretaries ate 2 more chocolates a day.
Just because they could see it.
Just the visual cue triggered the behavior. But the spatial element is where it gets crazy.
Yep.
Simply moving that dish 2 meters away from their desk reduced consumption by 1.8 candies a day. Let's contextualize this for a second, because no one gave these secretaries a lecture on nutrition. No one handed them a self-help book.
Or told them to dig deep and resist the chocolate.
A mere 2 meters of physical friction, literally just the slight annoyance of having to stand up, was enough to save them thousands of empty calories over the course of a year.
That trivial amount of friction changed their behavior profoundly. It demonstrates that the environment is doing the heavy lifting. In 2008, Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein coined the term choice architecture.
Choice architecture.
Right. The fundamental premise here is that there's no such thing as a neutral environment. Every room you walk into is already nudging you in some direction.
If your kitchen counters are covered in junk food, the room is nudging you to eat poorly.
Exactly.
Which means the things you do most often are simply the things your environment makes the easiest. Like, if my guitar is locked in a case in the back of my closet and my TV remote is sitting right on my coffee table, I'm going to watch TV.
Not because you lack the drive to be a musician. Right. But because the room is architected for me to be a couch potato.
So let's bring in B.J. Fogg's behavior model to explain why that happens. Fogg is a behavioral scientist at Stanford, and his formula is incredibly elegant. It's B equals MAP.
Behavior equals motivation times ability times prompt.
Yes. For any behavior to happen, all 3 of those elements must converge at the exact same moment.
Okay, so motivation is the fluctuating desire to do it. Ability is how easy or hard it is.
Yeah.
And the prompt is the cue, like the trigger.
Exactly. Now, we already know motivation is incredibly unreliable. It spikes on January 1st, and it completely crashes on a rainy Tuesday morning in February.
For sure.
When that motivation inevitably drops, your new behavior only survives if your ability is really high, meaning the friction is very low and a prompt is highly visible.
So altering your physical environment solves both the ability and the prompt simultaneously.
It does.
Okay, I want to get hyper-practical here, especially for anyone listening who wants to start something new this week. Tell us how to change our home environment to make new habits easier. How do we hack our spaces for default behaviors?
Well, you start by making the cue visible and reducing the actual physical steps to action. If your goal is to read more, saying, "I will read tonight," is a very weak intention.
Because it's too vague.
Right. Instead, when you make your bed in the morning, physically place the book on your pillow. You've created a visual prompt, and you've reduced the friction to practically 0 when you go to bed.
Oh, I see. Or if you want to drink more water, you fill a glass and put it directly in front of your keyboard before you even sit down to work.
Exactly. It's about collapsing the physical distance between the intention and the action. If you want to run in the morning, putting your running clothes on the dresser and your shoes by the front door literally cuts the sequence of required actions in half.
You don't have to rummage through drawers in the dark while you're half asleep and easily frustrated.
And we flip that exact same script to break bad habits. You engineer friction.
So add more steps.
Yes, if you want to stop watching so much television, take the batteries out of the remote after you turn it off and put them in a drawer in the kitchen.
Oh, wow, that's brutal.
But it works. That extra 30 seconds of having to walk to the kitchen, find the batteries, and load them back in is remarkably effective at making you pause and ask, do I actually want to watch this, or am I just bored?
Or the classic trick, like charging your phone in the kitchen overnight. You physically cannot reach over and start doom scrolling in bed if the phone is 3 rooms away.
The environment is playing defense for you.
But this brings up a crucial question. Let's say you've optimized your physical space, right? The book is on the pillow, the running shoes are by the door. How do you actually wire the brain to consistently trigger the new behavior without relying on random calendar reminders?
This takes us into the neuroscience of the anchor, or what is widely known as habit stacking. Wendy Wood at USC found that about 43% of our daily behavior is repeated in the exact same physical context.
Because the brain just loves efficiency.
Exactly.
So almost half of our day is literally just us running pre-programmed scripts.
It is. And this brings us to the basal ganglia, which is the part of the brain responsible for habit formation, motor functions, and routine behaviors.
Okay.
See, the brain consumes an immense amount of energy, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which handles all your complex decision-making. To conserve glucose and energy, the brain offloads anything it can to the basal ganglia to just run automatically.
I've heard this described using synaptic pruning, where the brain clears out unused pathways. Is that what's happening when we build a habit?
Let's get the biology precisely right here because a lot of pop psychology gets this slightly backwards. Synaptic pruning is the brain actively destroying or eliminating unused synapses to save energy.
So it's clearing the overgrown brush.
Right. But the strengthening of the trails you walk every single day, like brewing coffee or locking the front door, that is driven by processes like long-term potentiation and myelination.
And myelination, okay.
The myelin sheath wraps around the neural pathway, basically paving the dirt road into a high-speed neural superhighway.
Ah, okay. So pruning deletes the old roads we don't use, while myelination paves the highways we use every day.
Exactly.
So if I try to start a brand new habit, like meditating, and I just set a random calendar alert for 2 p.m., my brain doesn't have a paved highway for that.
No, it doesn't.
It's trying to hack through the jungle with a machete. It requires huge prefrontal cortex energy.
Precisely. But through habit stacking, a concept popularized by James Clear but originating as B.J. Fogg's anchor habits, you take that new behavior and hitch a ride on an already fully paved neural highway.
Oh, I see.
The formula is, after my current habit, I will do my new habit. You are borrowing a trigger that your brain is already running flawlessly.
Which sounds foolproof, but I know this is where people mess up, myself included. So tell me, how do you choose a really reliable anchor for beginners? Let me throw a scenario at you to see if it works.
Okay, let's hear it.
What if I pick an anchor habit that I only do, say, 3 or 4 days a week? Like, after I come home from the gym, I will practice a Spanish lesson on my phone. That feels like a solid stack, right?
It feels solid, but it's actually a structural trap.
Wait, really? Why?
If your anchor only happens 4 days a week, your new habit will only happen 4 days a week. It won't get enough consistent repetitions to reach the threshold of automaticity in the basal ganglia.
Oh, so the highway never fully gets paved.
Exactly. You have to ruthlessly audit your anchor. You have to ask yourself, does this anchor happen genuinely every single day, regardless of whether it's a Saturday or if I'm traveling or if I'm sick?
So it has to be completely bulletproof, like brushing your teeth, flushing the toilet, getting out of bed.
Yes. And furthermore, the anchor cannot be a vague window of time or a prolonged event. People often say, well, after breakfast, I'll meditate.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would say.
But that is a terrible anchor. Breakfast is a 20-minute event. Are you meditating while you chew your toast? While you're doing the dishes?
Yeah, it's too fuzzy. The brain doesn't know what the actual starting gun is.
Exactly. A reliable anchor for a beginner must be a highly specific, observable, physical action. It should be the very last micro action of a sequence.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like after I rinse my breakfast plate and put it in the rack, or after my feet hit the floor when I get out of bed. It has to be a definitive split-second moment.
Okay, let's take this out of the theoretical and give some really simple examples for everyday life. Maybe some morning and work scenarios.
Absolutely. But to make this work, we have to look at James Clear's 2-minute rule first.
Right, what's that?
When you are stacking a new habit onto an anchor, the new behavior must take less than 2 minutes to complete. The activation cost needs to be practically zero.
So you can't say, after I pour my coffee, I will do a rigorous 45-minute workout.
No, the friction is way too high. The prefrontal cortex will step in and say, no way, we are too tired for that, and the whole loop breaks. You have to scale it down to an absurdly easy starting point.
Okay, so simple examples for everyday life. Let's look at some morning scenarios first.
Sure, try this. After my alarm goes off and my feet touch the floor, I will drink the glass of water sitting on my nightstand.
Oh, I like that. Very simple. Or how about after I press the start button on the coffee machine, I will write 3 lines in my journal, or just list the top 3 things I need to finish today.
Perfect. Another good one is, after I put my toothbrush back in the holder, I will do 10 squats.
Notice how physical those anchors are. The start button, the toothbrush holder.
Yes, and we can translate this directly into work scenarios to build professional habits too.
Oh, let's hear some work scenarios.
After I open my laptop lid in the morning, I will close all the browser tabs left over from yesterday.
Wow, that would actually save me so much anxiety.
Right. Or after I hit send on my first email of the day, I will stand up and fill my water bottle.
I need that one. Or how about after I click leave meeting on a video call, I will stretch my arms overhead for 30 seconds.
Exactly. These are all perfect.
It sounds so incredibly basic. It almost feels like cheating. But I have to ask about the timeline. Like, if I do the toothbrush and squat stack, How long before my basal ganglia takes over and it feels as automatic as the brushing itself?
Well, the classic 21 days to form a habit myth really needs to be retired.
Oh, is that not true?
Not quite. We need to manage expectations. Philippa Lally and her colleagues at University College London ran a highly cited study in 2010 tracking exactly this.
Okay, and what did they find?
They found it takes a median of 66 days for a new habit to reach automaticity.
56 days.
Yeah, and the actual range is massive. It can be anywhere from 18 days to 254 days, depending on the complexity of the habit and the individual person.
Wow, up to 8 months. So drinking a glass of water might take 3 weeks to become automatic, but doing squats might take half a year?
Basically, yes.
How do we keep from giving up during that gap when it still just feels like work?
That is where Charles Duhigg's concept of the habit loop becomes vital. The loop requires a cue, a routine, and crucially, a reward.
A reward, right?
If your new habit stack feels like pure obligation, your brain has no biological reason to remember it. You have to intentionally manufacture a reward to close the loop.
Are we talking about like treating yourself to a donut because you did 10 squats?
No, nothing that derails the progress. BJ Fogg refers to this as a deliberate dopamine hit. It's an immediate micro celebration.
A micro celebration, like what?
It can literally be giving yourself a high five in the mirror,
Yeah.
doing a quick fist pump, or just taking a deep breath and consciously saying, good job.
Wait, really? Just saying good job out loud actually does something chemically.
It absolutely does. That tiny manufactured celebration releases a microdose of dopamine, which signals the basal ganglia, hey, whatever we just did felt good, let's wire that pathway a little tighter.
That's fascinating.
The celebration is the glue that makes the habit stick while you wait for the 66-day automaticity to finally kick in.
Okay, so closing browser tabs and doing a few squats is great for feeling productive in the morning. But does this actually move the needle on my career? Is there proof that stringing together these tiny actions translates to real workplace performance?
It translates in a massive way, and we actually have really fresh data on this. This brings us to a 2024 study published in Econstore by researchers Nina Trenz and Nina Keith.
What were they looking at?
They investigated implementation intentions, which is just the psychological term for the exact if-then planning we've been talking about.
Okay, so if I do this, then I do that.
Right. They wanted to see what happens when employees use these structures at work.
And what did they find?
They found that when employees utilize if-then structures for basic tasks, the automaticity of those behaviors significantly increases, just like we'd expect.
Makes sense.
But the secondary effect is the real breakthrough. Because these habits are eventually executed without conscious effort, the employees conserve highly limited cognitive attentional resources.
Ah, so we're talking about saving that prefrontal cortex energy you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Working memory and directive attention are finite resources. Think about decision fatigue. Every time you have to decide what to do next at work, or consciously force yourself to organize your desk, or remember to drink water, you burn a little bit of that cognitive fuel.
Right.
If you burn it all on mundane tasks, you literally have nothing left for complex problem solving.
This is a huge perspective shift. By putting the basic work tasks on autopilot, like the tabs, the water bottle, prioritizing the top 3 goals, you aren't turning yourself into some mindless corporate robot.
You are actually doing the complete opposite. You're creating what the researchers call cognitive slack.
Cognitive slack, I like that.
It's the paradox of routine. By strictly organizing the mundane, you liberate the creative. The study demonstrated that having this conserved cognitive energy shields employees against daily distractions.
Which we all have way too many of.
Exactly, and it directly correlates with higher daily work engagement and measurable progress toward larger, complex goals.
So your environment and your tiny stacked routines are essentially serving as your personal assistant, just doing the heavy lifting in the background so you can actually focus.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the basal ganglia to the candy dish. So let's distill this deep dive down to the actionable essentials. First, if you want to change your behavior, stop focusing so heavily on the end goal. Obsess over your systems.
Yes. As James Clear famously notes, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
And a resilient system relies entirely on choice architecture. Don't push harder against friction, just remove it. Design your physical spaces so that your desired habits are the default path of least resistance.
And ensure the bad habits require frustrating extra steps.
Then utilize reliable daily anchors, like your alarm or your coffee maker, to trigger those new 2-minute behaviors. And never forget the micro-celebration to lock the dopamine loop in place.
Because ultimately, all of this architecture is about identity-based habits.
Mm.
Every single time you execute a stack, even if it is just closing your laptop tabs or doing one push-up, you are casting a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
You're proving to your own brain that you are someone who follows through.
It creates a beautiful, self-reinforcing cycle of trust in yourself.
We usually end these deep dives with a final thought to chew on. Throughout this whole conversation, we've talked a lot about physical choice architecture, putting the book on the pillow, moving the candy dish 2 meters away.
Right.
But what happens if you apply this exact same friction-based logic to your digital environment?
Oh, that is a fascinating challenge.
Tonight, before you go to sleep, try completely rearranging the apps on your phone's home screen. Take the social media app you reflexively open the most and bury it in a folder on the third page of your screen.
Just hide it away.
Yep. And tomorrow morning, when you unlock your phone, just watch what happens. Watch your thumb automatically reach for a spot on the screen that isn't there anymore.
You'll definitely feel it.
Notice that split second of confusion. That is your basal ganglia misfiring. That is the feeling of friction. If 2 meters of space can stop someone from eating candy, what could one extra swipe do for your digital habits? Give it a try and notice the invisible architecture steering your life.